1. The revolution is not an apple that falls when it is ripe. You have to make it fall. 2. We cannot be sure of having something to live for unless we are willing to die for it. 3. Let's be realistic. Let's do the impossible. For every day you have to fight so that love for humanity can be transformed into concrete deeds, into acts that set an example, that mobilize. 5. If you have the capacity to tremble with indignation every time that an injustice is committed in the world, then we are comrades. 6. Everyday people straighten up the hair, why not the heart? 7. The walls of the educational system must come down. Education should not be a privilege, so the children of those who have money can study. 8. I don't care if I fall as long as someone else picks up my gun and keeps on shooting. 9. Words that do not match deeds are not important. 10. It's not my fault if reality is Marxist. 11. Let the world change you, and you can change the world. 12. We have no right to believe that freedom can be won without struggle. 13. One must endure without losing tenderness. 14. Words without deeds are worthless. 15. To accomplish much you must first lose everything. 16. At the risk of seeming ridiculous, let me say that the true revolutionary is guided by a great feeling of love. It is impossible to think of a genuine revolutionary lacking this quality. 17. I would rather die standing up to live life on my knees. 18. It's a sad thing not to have friends, but it is even sadder not to have enemies. 19. Be realistic, demand the impossible. 20. Justice remains the tool of a few powerful interests. Legal interpretations will continue to be made to suit the convenience of the oppressor powers. 21. I am not a liberator. Liberators do not exist. The people liberate themselves. 22. Live your life not celebrating victories, but overcoming defeats. 23. Cruel leaders are replaced only to have new leaders turn cruel. 24. A country that does not know how to read and write is easy to deceive. 25. Youth should learn to think and act as a mass. It is criminal to think as individuals. 26. Democracy is not compatible with financial oligarchy. 27. The best form of saying is being. 28. I could become very rich in Guatemala, but by the low method of ratifying my title, opening a clinic, and specializing in allergies. To do that would be the most horrible betrayal of the two eyes struggling inside me, the socialist and the traveler. 29. Above all, always be capable of feeling deeply any injustice committed against anyone, anywhere in the world. This is the most beautiful quality in a revolutionary. 30. Democracy cannot consist solely of elections that are nearly always fictitious and managed by rich landowners and professional politicians. 31. If you tremble with indignation at every injustice, then you are a comrade of mine. 32. I know you are here to kill me. Shoot, coward, you are only going to kill a man. 33. The revolution is made by man, but man must forge his revolutionary spirit from day to day. 30. For the world must not only be interpreted, it must be transformed. Man ceases to be the slave and tool of his environment and converts himself into the architect of his own destiny. 35. It is unnecessary to say that Fidel Castro possesses the high qualities of a fighter and statesman. Our path, our struggle, and our triumph we owe to his vision. 36. He is indolent and lazy, and spends his money on frivolities, whereas the European is forward-looking, organized and intelligent. 37. A new era will dawn in Africa, when the impoverished masses of a nation rise up to rescue their right to a decent life from the hands of the ruling oligarchies. 38. Passion is needed for any great work, and for the revolution, passion and audacity are required in big doses. 39. Remember that the revolution is what is important, and each one of us, alone, is worth nothing. 40. I had a project for my life which involved 10 years of wandering, then some years of medical studies and, if any time was left, the great adventure of physics. 41. The only passion that guides me is for the truth. I look at everything from this point of view. 42. Whenever death may surprise us, let it be welcome if our battle cry has reached even one receptive ear and another hand reaches out to take up our arms. 43. And then many things became very clear. We learned perfectly that the life of a single human being is worth millions of times more than all the property of the richest man on earth. 44. One must have a large dose of humanity, a large dose of a sense of justice and truth in order to avoid dogmatic extremes, cold scholasticism, or an isolation from the masses. We must strive every day so that this love of living humanity is 45. Silence is argument carried out by other means. 46 How easy it is to govern when one follows a system of consulting the will of the people and one holds as the only norm all the actions which contribute to the well-being of the people. 47 Better to die standing than to live on your knees. 48 Above all, try always to be able to feel deeply any injustice committed against any person in any part of the world. It is the most beautiful quality of a revolutionary. 49 The peasant must always be helped technically, economically, morally and culturally. The guerrilla fighter will be a sort of guiding angel who has fallen into the zone, helping the poor always and bothering the rich as little as possible in the first phases of the war. 50 Many will call me an adventurer, and that I am, only one of a different sort, one of those who risks his skin to prove his platitudes. 51 It is important to emphasize that guerrilla warfare is a war of the masses, a war of the people. The guerrilla band is an armed nucleus, the fighting vanguard of the people. It draws its great force from the mass of the people themselves. 52 A political event was that I met Fidel Castro, the Cuban revolutionary. He is a young, intelligent guy, very sure of himself and extraordinarily audacious. I think we hit it off well. 53 I would probably have more in common with a whale than with a bourgeois married couple employed at worthy institutions that I would wipe from the face of the earth if it was given to me to do so. 54 A revolutionary must become a cold-killing machine motivated by pure hate. We must create the pedagogy of the wall. 55 The guerrilla fighters should be required to go to bed and get up at fixed hours. Games that have no social function, and that hurt the morale of the troops, and the consumption of alcoholic drinks should both be prohibited. 56 The true revolutionary is guided by a great feeling of love. It is impossible to think of a genuine revolutionary lacking this chew. 57 The merit of Marx is that he suddenly produces a qualitative change in the history of social thought. He interprets history, understands its dynamic, predicts the future, but in addition to predicting it, which would satisfy his scientific obligation, he expresses a revolutionary concept. The world must not only be interpreted, it must be transformed. Man ceases to be the slave and tool of his environment and converts himself into the architect of his own destiny. 58 My nostrils dilate while savoring the acrid odor of gunpowder and blood. Crazy with fury, I will stain my rifle red while slaughtering any surrendered enemy that falls in my hands. With the deaths of my enemies I prepare my being for the sacred fight and join the triumphant proletariat with a bestial howl. 59 To execute a man we don't need proof of his guilt. We only need proof that it's necessary to execute him. It's that simple. 60 The Negro is indolent and a dreamer, spending his meager wage on frivolity or drink. The European has a tradition of work and saving, which has pursued him as far as this corner of America and drives him to advance himself, even independently of his own individual aspirations.